brain isn't a recording system.
Wait, if your brain isn't recording reality, what is it doing?
So we're using
Yeah.
past experiences then to predict what's happening now.
If that's true, it changes everything we think we know about lasting change. In this conversation, Dr. Andy explains why lasting change almost never comes from more insight alone.
The brain isn't a recording system, so we're not really recording reality.
Mm-mm.
As we walk this path, I testify a lot in court on cases, and sometimes I come in as an expert witness on some things, and I'll say the brain is inherently a predictive mechanism. So we're using past experiences then to predict what's happening now. And I think the really interesting fact, and I think this is contested in some ways, but we're bombarded by like billions of bits of sensory data every second. The conscious mind only can articulate, is aware of like 40 to 50 bits, which is, oh my gosh, it's a fraction of what's available. And so the return is really just as you said. It's about coming into contact with what the mechanisms are underneath that we're projecting, and coming back to this felt sense of safety.
Okay, so when you are safe and when you are back at the 0 point, are you then able to choose more of what of the things that you are bombarded with, what you want to actually notice or experience? Or can you have more? Are you more aware suddenly?
Yeah, I think so. And in that TEDx talk, we like to say, I want you to look around the room and see everything that's red. We look and we count all the red things, and then it's like, all right, well, how many blue things did you see? So, oh man, I missed those. And so it is all about selective attention. And so it's about coming back to this, as I said, this 0 point, this felt sense of safety. And of course, we can't force it. There are going to be some things that come in the way that we have to kind of work through, and that's okay. And there are processes with that. But that's where I think worth comes in for me, because that's then another something to choose, and then that becomes another type of predictive processing mechanism that then you see the world in a completely different way. Through the eyes of worth, you start seeing the blue was actually everywhere. And so then you start following that more and more. And then just like I love your work, then your capacity to hold more of life increases more and more and more.
Yeah, my big thing is active spaciousness.
Oh,
I think that's my 0 point,
I love that.
Actively, with awareness going to this, oh, I can hold this. It's uncomfortable, but I'm here. We all live on this different planet, we all have those inner worlds that are our baselines, mood baselines or emotional baselines. Can we permanently change the planet we are living on according to moods?
Yeah. Well, I think that's a great example of, that these things can change. You have a lived experience that they can. I have a lived experience that they can.
What was your permanent mood?
Well, I was always,
Someday.
like you imagine someone who is like, so
my being perfectionistic and really driven, that core pattern or mood state would be one of anxiety or hyperactivation. You feel like you have to solve a problem, you have to put your nervous system on, like redline your nervous system, really push. Really push.
Yeah.
And that could be like anything, like, oh, I've got to go wake my daughter up. It's like, oh my gosh, this is everywhere. But I really like in neuroscience, people like Lisa Feldman Barrett.
I know her.
The allostasis model, and she'll talk about baseline mood as like a thermostat setting. The nervous system's always trying to keep the body in homeostasis, and so you kind of getting into the psychology of it, like we start feeling like certain mood states are safer than others. And for some of us, that's anger. It's a very powerful emotion, protect ourselves. For some of us, it's depression, where that could be like a very powerful guardian or protector, numbing the system so no pain, shame, overwhelm can ever breach consciousness, right?
Yeah, and very boring, yeah.
Yeah, right. Like the good stuff gets thrown out too, so nothing gets through.
Yeah.
Anxiety, that's one that, distracts the mind from, deeper rage or grief or things like that. And so, like, I would say that the general consensus is that most of us don't want to face these protectors, this kind of reframe and thinking of like our actual symptoms as things that are keeping us from feeling something deeper. Most of us don't want to feel those things. And so the general, I think, consensus is in neuroscience is that, yeah, like those things aren't going to change much for most of us. But most of us aren't actively trying to looking deeper into changing or allowing some of these deeper emotions to come up. So yeah, I think it's interesting. I think there's probably a little bit of a sampling bias when it comes to like the general consensus. If we sampled individuals who are highly motivated, like you and I, to curious to seeing what's underneath the hood, I would say absolutely these feeling states change, and the thermostat may, balance out as far as the your lived kind of emotional sense. But then there's the other kind of side of it. If you kind of go deeper into philosophy, like others would say, like the very act of wanting to change or saying one emotional state is better is also part of the problem. We're kind of coming back to this, not boring, but just this alive neutrality where every emotion is like you're worthy to have whatever's coming up. And I think over time, what we start stepping into is more of this like connection and feeling more alive in our body and not judging kind of the subjective experience of the emotions as much anymore.
If you had to describe the feeling of living from a different baseline to someone who has never experienced it, how would you describe it?
Oh, that's a great point. A great question. I think about it a lot, like, these feeling states as like channels on a TV,
Yeah.
So, we might describe the channel of your life right now as like a telenovela. Well, there's so much drama, there's so much intrigue, but there's a lot of, anger and frustration and disappointment. And the process now that we're getting to we have to accept completely what this telenovela is. We're never going to change it. This is the script that's been written. This is how it's always going to be. Let's not get into the telenovela, and let's not try to help Javier out with his mother-in-law.
Yeah, okay.
We don't need to change the plot of that story.
No.
Okay, let's come back and realize that we have the power to choose and that we're holding the remote. Okay, which channel do you want to switch to? What's exciting to you? Boom. I switched to, a show that I love. Okay, well, how does that feel in your body? Are you excited about that? Do you feel relaxed? Do you feel like, what does that feel like? Oh, that's so interesting. Okay, well, I wonder if we could do that with our emotions or our feeling state as well. That our emotions, none of them are inherently bad. We have this ability, we're all like artists. We have this ability to paint beautiful canvases with the colors of an emotional experience. on the continuum from shame and hatred all the way up to ecstatic joy, there is a continuum of beautiful colors. So are you ready to stop painting your now moment with putrid yellows because you feel unworthy, or deep reds because you feel shame and we can't really see anything else? There's so many more colors you can paint with.
It reminds me that when you have so much red that you cannot see anything else than red, it immediately tells me how I got out of my red was actually to accept the red and love the red. And how do you say it? Enfolding into the red?
Yeah, you bring those pieces that are like this, and you just kind of, I imagine enfolding is like just giving it a giant hug from that kind of that greater aspect of yourself. Just like you said, you loved it. Yeah.
Yeah. And stand by it and was not ashamed of it. In this case, the red was shame. So accepted the shame. Right.
Yeah. No, that's a great example.
That was actually one of my fastest and biggest transformations, when I accepted my shame.
I feel like so many of us are walking around with shame,
and it defines our lives when we do it.
So much. And I think what kind of going back to the neuroscience around that is that then we have like a very constrained bound of human kind of experience that we feel is safe, right? And so all that we're doing in these practices, in this conversation, is we're saying, oh, okay, we're recognizing it. Oh, okay, that's interesting. We are feeling it fully, and we're then opening a little bit more to what we may feel safe in experiencing. Or taking the paints analogy, we're just adding some more paints to our palette, more and more and more and more. And then that increases our capacity, as we said, to be more of ourselves.
For me, this interview was a big thing, right?
Yeah.
I think it's so big. I think it's so great. I love it. I think it's wonderful. But then I caught myself. So I caught myself thinking, so you have a big interview today with Dr. Andy Schregel?
Yeah, Schregel.
Your name?
You got
Schregel.
It. Yeah.
You cannot eat this. You cannot eat bread. And then I said, what?
I love it. Yeah.
I still have that mindset about, if you are going something big, you have to be perfect. You have to eat perfectly. You cannot just, but I am eating bread every day and I feel fine, and I do YouTube videos. What do you want from me? Okay, then eat the bread.
I love that.
That's so funny. That's an old mindset thing that I still have going on. That perfectionism, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm right there with you, and I love your example, because the only way to update that prediction is through, choosing a new experience.
Yeah.
And so,
I want to be myself.
Yes. And so you chose that, and you showed that it wasn't accurate,
Yeah.
And that's like, I think, the trap that I fell into for many years. I made it more of an intellectual thing, like, well, I'm going to think my way through this. It doesn't make sense, X, Y, Z, but I never took the experiential act of trust and courage into like another step, like that was opposite of the prediction, So if I was afraid of getting to work late, I would leave like 30 minutes early. I wouldn't challenge the prediction by leaving when I should have left, So those kinds of things. And so I like, wow, I really honor you for that. I think it takes a lot of courage, and that's, I think, what we're all doing. We're stepping into,
But those kinds of courageous steps, they always come from a deep pain. And my pain was, I will never again build something up from, from something that can crumble, something where I have to be perfect. It has to be a grounded foundation. It has to be me. So that was a promise I made for it's a while ago. But yeah. So, and with your example, did you ever then challenge it, or?
Yeah. So, maybe our minds are, very similar, as you kind of have a scientific background, is that we all have a very powerful intuitive sense, all of us, and it gets dulled and hidden by kind of that fear. And so more and more, and what I would do is I would start doing these little experiments. I'd get this impulse to do something that was completely out of pattern. It was coming up from that aspect of ourselves, from that 0 point, from that authentic self, part of ourselves that's bigger than we really realize.
Yeah.
Something would percolate into consciousness. It was so out of pattern. Call this person, or leave at this time, or go to this coffee shop. And I would just start following those little prompts. And those were the things that started to show me that having the experience that what I thought was true absolutely wasn't, from an experiential standpoint. And you just get more momentum that way.
So you gave yourself evidence, actually, right?
That's right. Yeah. Gave the body evidence. It's like trying to talk to your dog and reason through them about why the doorbell's dangerous. It's like we have to have lived experience about the person coming over and over again that, hey, it's actually safe. It's very similar for us.
Yeah.
And that's the only way it learns.